Welcome to the Great Broker Podcast. I'm your host, David Houck. In each episode, I talk with elite commercial real estate brokers about the deals, decisions, and lessons that define a great career in brokerage. Real brokers, real stories. Let's go. Hello, Dave Houck coming at you here. Today, broadcasting from our studios in Annapolis, Maryland, overlooking the shores of the Chesapeake Bay. I'm delighted we have an amazing guest today. Her name is Cathy Delcoco, Vice Chairman at CBRE, always one of the top brokers at all of CB, not to mention the Washington, D.C. metro area. She's a lifer, 36 plus years at CB. And she's completed, just in the past 5 years, over 950 transactions. That's over $3 billion and 20 million square feet worth of space. She's been recognized so many times as a top producer. She's done interviews on publications almost as prestigious as this, like the Washington Post and the Business Journal, and you've read about her in Globe Street, and she's won the NAIOP Awards and the biggest deal of the year in Northern Virginia, and so forth. Her clients are blue chip, folks like Northrop, Grumman, Booz Allen, Cisco Systems, the list goes on and on. Cathy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, David. Look forward to this.
This is fun. Cathy, tell the world about your journey.
So, my journey, I did residential real estate for a period of time, loved it, did very well at it. And then I decided to go into sales and management in the health spa industry, which was a
Mhm,
detour. And after working there for 7 years, I thought, I want to get back into commercial real estate because I could determine my destiny,
mhm,
both economically and professionally. So I took a little trip to overseas for 3 months as a break, came back
mhm.
and started interviewing. And, I always succeeded at sales, so I thought I'd get hired right away. No. Back in 1989, there were very few women in this industry. There still are very few
Mhm,
women in the
mhm,
brokerage part of the industry. It took me about 6 months to get hired. And luckily, I was hired by CBRE, the preeminent player in the real estate
mhm.
industry. But that wasn't an easy journey. I interviewed with everyone. This is a very collaborative industry. So I probably interviewed with 15 brokers. They all had to give their seal of approval. So luckily they did. They had a psychological aptitude test, which I took. I thought it was just again, a standard thing. I get a call from the manager saying, we've got a problem. I go in and speak to him and I said, what's the problem? He said, the problem is, there's three categories: recommend hire, recommend with reservations, or recommend do not hire. I was a recommend do not hire. So I asked him, well, what did the test say? And he goes through this long laundry list. And I'm like nodding my head because some of the things were very true about me.
Mhm.
I didn't consider them bad. And then I narrowed the objection as I'd been taught to do in sales and said, well, out of all those things, what is the thing that bothers you the most? And he gave me 5 different things. And so I thought for a minute and I convinced him that those 5 things would not be obstacles to me being a fantastic broker. So after I started achieving success, he was very proud of the fact that he had taken the risks to hire me. And
Mhm.
I was very happy that none of the other companies that wanted to extend an offer got to see how successful I was in this industry and that they missed the mark.
5 things. I can't imagine what those 5 things must have been. Do you remember any of them?
One of them was that, I wasn't coming right from college. So one of them was that I had achieved success and I wouldn't take direction well. And I convinced him that, I did want to excel at this business and I knew and understood that it would only be through learning through others and taking direction that I'd be successful. Another one was that I wasn't empathetic. And I told him, geez, I have a long list of friends and very close family members that come to me for advice and counsel all the time. I can't imagine that that's a trait that describes me. So anyway, those are the 2 I remember out of the 5.
One of your clients who's now retired feels that you are a rather empathetic person. In fact, she said, Kathy is just real. What you see is what you get. She genuinely likes people and it shows. She meets them where they are and actually takes the time to get to know them, not just obvious decision makers, but everyone. She always makes an effort to connect. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. I don't know where you found that, but that's great. Thank you.
I'm not sure anybody ever said anything that nice about me, especially a client.
I'm sure there were plenty.
Sure, yes. Uh, okay, 1989, not that many women in the business. So, you know, how'd you get after it? What'd you do?
I started knocking on doors to meet people, started working in pairs with some of the senior brokers. So the interesting thing is, as you know, David, shortly after I was hired, we had a severe economic
Yeah.
downturn. And what ended up happening was, I feel, and I've always told brokers that I think starting at a difficult time in the industry is the best time to start.
Mhm,
You set a foundation, you learn good habits, and you have to conquer the adversity of a bad market.
mhm,
So, what ended up happening was, the relationships that I established, the doors that I'd knocked on, I started earning business right away. Whereas my colleagues that had books of business, at that time, a lot of my colleagues had listings on buildings, and the
mhm,
buildings were going back to the lenders. So they
mhm.
were having zero business while I was started representing tenants right off the bat. And achieved success right away, and I was very, very fortunate. I think that I came in at that time.
So, how long did it take? Was there any particular moment in time or a particular deal when all of a sudden you felt to yourself, wow, not only can I do this, but I think I'm pretty good at it?
There was a company called, Newbridge Networks that was later acquired by Alcatel, which are in business today, but I hosted a forum, and I invited a number of users to come,
Mhm,
and we presented an educational forum for them. So I met companies that I otherwise would not have met. I wasn't just knocking on their door and saying, "Hey, when does your lease expire? Please hire me." I was providing something of value to them. And a number of companies came that later became my client. And, I ended up representing Newbridge Networks and, felt like I was in the big leagues working with a blue chip company at the time. And I felt like, okay, I've made it. I could do this. All these decision makers tie their shoes just the same as I do. So I can call on anyone and bring value to their companies. So it was very early on.
So you're 25 or 30 years old and you're hosting this business forum with CEOs and CFOs?
Well, it was CFOs and, real estate decision makers. As my business is largely portfolio companies.
Mhm,
It's companies that have, large real estate portfolios, and when you get to that point, the companies hire a real estate executive. So it'll either
mhm,
be a director or VP of the company,
mhm,
and oftentimes those are the decision makers on who they hire. So,
mhm.
the smaller transactions are more the CEOs and the CFOs, which I enjoy working with them still to this day. It's
Mm,
a great experience. I have an interesting story. So, our CEO guy's name was Jim Didion, and boy, am I
mhm,
aging myself when I tell these stories. Jim Didion came to town. He was the CEO. And, I raised my hand and told him I didn't think we were doing enough cross-selling between offices throughout the country. And I was looking at one of my competitors, and when I interviewed with them, even though they didn't hire me, they said that, their prospecting book was really looking at other brokers in other cities and cross-selling with them. And I said,
mhm.
we do a whole lot of that. And I said to Jim, and by the way, I want you to know who I am because I'm new to this industry and I'm going to be a success in your company. So when I made the first sales recognition conference, he remembered, kudos to him,
Mhm.
sent me a personal note saying, you were right, congratulations, look forward to your continued success. So it was a nice moment.
Oh, that's great. So let's fast forward 36 years at CB. That's a long time. What does your business look like today?
So my business looks like today. So I co-lead a team of 11 people, and our focus is on large complex transactions locally, but mostly a lot of those large complex transactions are tied to portfolio business. So we represent companies that Charter Communications is one of our largest companies. We represent all of their real estate all over the country, and then we have clients that, like Amentum, they're global in nature. So,
Mhm.
and what's exciting about that is there's a lot of competition in this business, but I always recommend that people specialize in their field. So I not only represent corporate users, I represent corporate users that have portfolios. Not everybody wants to do that business.
Mhm.
You not only have to manage the transaction, you have to manage the brokers in the field, and us brokers were not always easy to manage in the field. You have to have a consistent level of service. You really have to have more documentation, but it's something that our team has thrived at. And we have a diverse team. We have a data analyst on our team. We have an attorney on our team. We
Mhm.
have 4 transaction managers on our team. So it's exciting and fun. And I get to mentor people.
Right. Take me through a day. How much of your day are you spending managing your team, managing clients, actually doing deals yourself? What's a day like for Cathy
All of
Delcoco?
all of the above. I would say in general, our team of professionals, uh, they self-manage for
Mhm.
the most part, and I manage by example, so I spend a lot of time working with them. We have a transaction coordinator that was recently promoted. I schedule time with her each and every week, but more importantly, she's doing transactions with me. I would say most of my time I'd say 50% of my time is doing paperwork, and a lot of that is at night. And 50% of my time is scheduled on calls or in meetings, because
Mhm.
during the day, you're talking with your clients. When you're managing a portfolio, one portfolio, I might have 12 transactions going on at any given time. So I have to talk to other brokers, I have to talk to landlords, I have to talk to my client. So it's a lot of, and I will say with Zoom and Teams calls, we've managed to be in more meetings per day than we used to when they were face to face meetings.
A lot of top producers like you have opportunities at some point during their career to go somewhere else. You're a lifer at CB. How come?
It's interesting. There's only once that I took a little glance at something else, but it didn't go very far. I guess I've always looked at the grasses not greener on the other side. I mean,
Mhm.
CBRE is the largest commercial real estate company in the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
In addition to that, CBRE has treated me very well. I've had
Mhm.
some wonderful mentors. I've won some prestigious awards. I sat on our board of directors. They used to have one employee sit on the board of directors. I was privileged enough to be that employee for a couple years. So my career here, and I also think in commercial real estate, your career is what you make of it.
Mhm.
So going somewhere else, I've always said it might be a different desk, but it's the same job. I'm very happy here and have always been very happy here and very well supported.
Uh, um, y you've won all these awards, over the years. I've got a whole list of them here. I can't go through them. Which one, of the awards that you've won has, been most important to you?
So in 2001,
Okay.
I won the McCarthy Award, legendary CBRE award that one employee gets per year. And it is to one high producer that doesn't just produce revenue, but they embody the culture of CBRE, mentoring others, professionalism, integrity. I'm a real believer in goal setting.
Mhm.
I had seen a woman who was very inspirational to me, Darla Longo, win the award at a sales recognition conference that I was at. So I set that as a goal that I wanted to achieve that award. And I still remember I was on a Trammel Crow ski trip, a business ski trip,
Mhm.
conceivably, but
Uh-huh. Yep.
obviously we had lots of fun. And I'm on a chairlift all by myself because I'm one of these people that likes to do the last lift, and so I was all by myself on the chairlift, and, I get a call from Chris Ludeman, who was a senior leader in our company and really one of my biggest mentors, and he called me to tell me that I had won the McCarthy Award, um, and it's a great honor.
Uh, Fantastic. I love that. So, what are your habits? What habits or disciplines do you have that you would advise young brokers to pick up if they want to get to the top?
First of all, like I said, I'm a goal setter. I'm a firm believer. There was a study once done by Harvard that looked at top students and said who achieved the most in their lives. And it wasn't necessarily the best and the brightest, it was those that set goals for themselves. So I'm a real believer in writing down your goals, visualizing your goals, and revisiting them constantly. I would also say I'm a constant learner. We have AI now. We're looking at that. I still remember when I won the AOL account, which a lot of your listeners might not remember that. And I looked at my partner at the time, Mark Larson, and I said, I guess I'm going to have to learn how to email. So it was obviously a very long time ago, but I'm a
Hmm.
constant learner. I like to read, love to hear what your latest book is that you could advise on, business acumen. And I go back and I reread books. Like Good to Great is one of, I think a great book that I have on my shelf. Working hard planning. I was up last night working, planning my week out. I think you have to plan. Um, our days always get disrupted. Whatever we plan doesn't always happen because there's always new things that creep up.
Right.
But I'm a big believer in all that.
One of your former clients said, quote, Kathy is a lifelong learner. And apparently, you even showed up on a ski trip with a basket of old newspapers because you hadn't gotten to them yet and you wanted to catch up. Is that true?
I'm sure it's true. I remember going on a vacation with a girlfriend, and we were going to the beach, and I brought all these books, and she was like, "You are not reading those books while we are on vacation." But anyway, yes, I'm sure it's true. Get it on our screens versus, carrying it with us.
Okay. I want to talk about deals. Tell me about a deal that you're particularly proud of.
So one of my favorite deals was a deal I did for a company that's now owned by Northrop Grumman, a satellite manufacturing facility, and it was half satellite manufacturing and half office, and it was in Arizona. Yes, it was big. It was 800,000 square feet, but that's not the reason that it's most memorable. One of the reasons it was most memorable was we started off, they had multiple facilities, and we started off looking at it like, we're just going to renew these facilities. I mean, to move the satellite manufacturing part of it, we didn't have a lot of time, really not enough time to make a move. We were just going to drive competition by looking in the market.
Mhm.
Well, as we looked, the more we looked, it became readily apparent that a relocation was probably the best alternative. So I had to work fast and furious and be the cook and the bottle washer, assemble a team of project managers, financial consultants, economic consultants to drive this transaction in record breaking time to accomplish their objectives. So I was real proud of the fact that we did it, nights, evenings, weekends in a very short period of time. We accomplished it. And I was really pleased that, I was just on a call earlier today with one of my clients. It's in a facility that, while it's the cheapest alternative, there's all kind of problems with the facility, but they stay in it because their client likes the dollars and cents they're paying for it. We were able to upgrade this client from their existing locations into a new location. And while it was 800,000 square feet, it was smaller and more economically feasible than if they had renewed all their facilities. So, anyway, it's a transaction I'm most proud of.
Awesome. Tell me about the market that you spend most of your time in, Northern Virginia, the DC metro area. What's going on? What are tenants thinking about? Are they making decisions? What's your perspective?
Well, a lot of my clients are in the government sector, and it's interesting you say that the market I spend the most time in. I spend a lot of my time here, but a lot of my time is because we represent these portfolio companies
Hmm.
that are in other jurisdictions. 2 transactions I'm working on right now, which are most notable, I've been working on for 24 months. They both have leases out. One is in, Indiana, one's in Pennsylvania, and, just have been long-term transactions because you not only have to work with the client, but their client, which is the government, and the government making decisions on what they do or don't want in these facilities.
Hmm.
But in the Northern Virginia market, I find whether it's here on a national basis with what's going on with government shutdowns happening frequently, the wars. I mean, companies move forward on transactions, but then sometimes take a step back because of all the uncertainty. So it's harder for companies to make decisions. I will also say, there's other factors in this market. I mean, the fact that you have the data center growth, you have buildings. I mean, GW campus, out in Loudoun County was just sold to Amazon.
Hmm.
And, one of my coworkers on my team is in deep distress because her house is close to there and she doesn't want data centers to be built right next to her. You have buildings that are being reused as apartments, residential, data center use. So you have buildings that are being taken off the market. You have trophy buildings. My goodness, the leverage between tenants and landlord is starting to change because in these trophy buildings, nobody's constructing new buildings or very few buildings are being constructed because of the high price of construction. So therefore, there's a lack of trophy buildings. So landlords are now driving the economics and the prices are increasing. So there's a lot swirling and happening in our market right now. I mean, back to work is still a subject of conversation. Do we make our employees come back to work? Do we not make our employees come back to work? If you don't make them and really set a mandate that you enforce, they're not coming back. So people are taking more or less space based on that.
Okay. So I do know your office is in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. Where's your favorite lunch spot? Are you a power luncher?
I normally eat at my desk, but when I do go out to lunch or dinner in the Tysons area, I go to Nostros. Have you been there?
I don't think so.
You gotta go there. It's a lot of people's favorite. It's a
Yeah?
Mediterranean restaurant, and it's always packed. So, it's not just me that loves it. It's a great restaurant.
Tell me about your family.
So, my family, we're a triangle. It consists of myself and my 2 children, Luca and Sophia. And, when I talk about setting goals, I would advise young people to set a plan. Work can become all-consuming, and it wasn't till I was in my 40s that I looked up and said there used to be a T-shirt that said, "I forgot to have children." And so I adopted my children late in life.
Mhm.
And they are now 19 and 17. One's in college and one will be going to college next year. So, and I'm very lucky I adopted them because I have a very close knit family. At Easter,
Mhm.
I had 30 some people at my house. So lots of support from my siblings and cousins and all that live in the area.
If someone says, "Gosh, who's that company working with?" "Oh, they're working with Cathy." They usually don't need to say Cathy Delcoco. So, wh when someone says, "Oh, Cathy's a great broker," what do you hope they mean?
I hope they mean that I lead with integrity, that I'm always trying to get the best results for my clients, that I treat everybody I interact with respect and and endeavor to establish a positive relationship with them. So those are some of the things I'd like to be known for.
So, you've had tremendous success in this industry. How do you give back?
Um, I just stepped off the board of Cornet Global, which is a business organization, but
Uh-huh.
I was at a leadership conference this weekend with a nonprofit organization that I'm on the board with, and it's called the Women's Center. They um, give mental health counseling to clients, no matter what your means are, and also help not only women, but men that are in abusive relationships. It's a fabulous mission, and I'm very proud to be associated with the organization.
Excellent. So I know you got a beach house. What do you spend your money on?
So, my philosophy is I spend my money on experiences. I like to travel. I love to eat.
Hmm.
So dining out and entertaining at my house are things that I love to do. I feel privileged that I could buy the beach house and my kids could grow up
Hmm.
knowing they had a second home. But I get joy when we're at the beach house and there might be 20 people staying at the beach house that weekend. So I've hosted my family, my extended family, I've hosted friends. Um, Giving back means more than some of the organizations we're involved in. I someone close to me recently told me that their grandson, who I know he's struggled with a variety of different issues, was a really good polo player,
Hmm.
and on swim team, but they couldn't afford to um, continue in that endeavor. And I said, I'll sponsor him. And I'm not saying this to brag and say, oh, aren't I great? But I
Hmm.
think that those of us that are given much need to open our eyes and be aware of those that are not as fortunate. It's not that I'm a better person than anybody else. The stars have all aligned for me in a variety of ways, and I've achieved more than some others. And giving back gives me lots of joy.
So there aren't many women at the vice chairman level at CB or other firms like CB. What can the industry do? What can individual brokers do to get more women and other minorities into the business and then support them along their journey?
Oh, that's a good question. I wish I had 100% answer because, as you know, your former company and my company have worked to increase the level of women in the high ranks and the minorities. I think it has to be a combination. I think the business today is way more complicated than when I got in it. So I think women and minority individuals need mentors coming into the business. And it's not just a mentor, it's someone that, for instance, on our teams, taking them into our teams and helping them grow. The company also needs to invest in them. When you're a talented woman or minority and you're leaving college and you can get a six-figure job at a professional firm versus coming into the field that I'm in. When I got into CBRE, I think I was given a $26,000 salary that I had to repay.
Mhm.
So it takes 3 years. I don't care how good you are. In general, it takes 3 years as a broker to make $100,000, even today.
Mhm.
So unless you're sponsored and supported by others, you'll never get there. So I think it's a couple things. I also think a lot of people don't know about our business. When I did speak at my children's school about professions, I explained what I did. And it was very gratifying to have some of the women come up to me afterwards and say, Hey, I'm interested in doing this. What you see, Dave, is a lot of the women that are in this business are because their relatives are in the business. So they know about it that way.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's kind of a hidden secret. It's a great business for women and for
Mhm.
minorities.
Agree. Kathy, this has been so much fun. How about the lightning round? Quick
Okay.
questions, quick answers. You ready?
Okay.
What's your routine? Are you an early riser or are you a night owl?
Night owl. I was walking the dog at 11 o'clock last night.
What's your favorite app on your phone?
Orange Theory.
What would your clients be surprised to learn about you?
I bungee jumped in New Zealand.
Coffee or cocktails?
Coffee.
One word to describe the current office market.
Turbulent.
That's a good one. Kathy, one piece of wisdom that you want young brokers, mid-level brokers to take away from this conversation.
I would say act with integrity always. Your reputation matters and you can establish a great reputation. It could also be destroyed in an instant. So always act with integrity.
Kathy, thanks for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun for me, and I hope I get to see you soon.
Thanks, David. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Great Broker Podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, follow the show and share it with someone who wants to become a great broker. See you next time.